Thanks for being here. It really is a privilege. When Craig asked me, I was like, "Are you sure?" Because I've seen the lineup, and it was just a privilege. And when I first wrote this book, honestly, this was my pandemic project. I was just real mad about everything going on, so I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to waste this time at home." And so this was an idea that I had stumbled on, I don't know, 10 years before. And so I had a couple of months, so I sat down and put it to writing. And the idea was really simple, which was that, like what I said, which is that so if God is who He says He is, and He is, then anything, when you ever hear these guys, these scientists, that they're discovering something magical about the human body, they're like, well, God knew that the whole time. Like, that's literally how He made us that way. And even some of these things you see now, like cold plunges. Right, by the way, not a fan. But they talk about the medical benefits of it. I'm realizing that's literally how humans have lived for thousands of years. There is no hot bath in Africa. There's no hot bath in Haiti. Every day is a cold plunge in the river. I'm like, oh, that's just how we were wired. There's a new thing, I don't know if you guys, the new thing is called grounding. All it is you just run around bare feet, also known as my childhood. But also known as literally the way the world works. So it's like everything that's being, quote, discovered is just the way that God has wired humanity to live. And so somehow God has a sense of humor and decided that a washed up rock and roll manager was going to become a pastor. And Craig can speak on this. Nobody saw that coming, including me. Because it just didn't make much sense on paper. I could have literally whiteboarded out why this was a bad idea for me to be a pastor. But it turned out that all those skills that I learned managing artists, like I was saying in there, getting in the back lounge of a bus, you guys are going to get along and we're going to figure this out because you got like 5 minutes before 8,000 people need to see you do your thing. And that just turned out to be a pastor. But all that to say, this was something that the first time I ever taught this in a service, Dr. Michael Easley, who was the president of Moody Bible Institute for like 10 years, was sitting in the room, and I was nervous as a barn cat because, this is not something I had ever heard. But by the way, as a pastor, you don't want to get up and say a bunch of crazy stuff anyway, but especially when there's a guy from Moody Bible Institute in the room, and he comes up to me afterwards. And he's still a very dear friend, and for some reason still goes to our church. I mean, the guy's forgotten more about the Bible than I'll ever know. And by the way, has no poker face, so occasionally I'll say something, and I try not to look at him, but he'll do one of these. And he'll start writing something down. But the first time I taught this on a Sunday, he came up afterwards and said, I've never heard this before. I'm going to have to check your exegesis on this, and I'll get back to you. And I was like, oh, no. I just wrote a book. I hope it's right. And he came back a couple of days later, and he said, I got to tell you, young man, this is right. I don't know how I've missed it all these years. This is right. So endorsed by Michael Easley and Dave Ramsey, which was funny that he even read it. But what I didn't know when I wrote it was I thought it was just for the church. And Craig was the first guy that inspired me to realize, oh no, this doesn't just work in a church. This works in the world because it's how God designed us. So all these guys that are creating their personality profiles and strengths finders, they're all literally just different versions of what God put in the Bible 2,000 years ago. So I started speaking on it, started reaching out and realizing that churches are using it all over now because it works. And it works because God works. And for me, again, for me personally, it was just such a huge freedom for me because it was the first time I could look and say, especially as a pastor, I don't know if any of you guys are PKs or ever been a pastor, but anybody that walks in the room, they have their expectation of what they want from you, and what it is their favorite pastor they're watching on TV or something else. And so you got this whole group of people that want you to be their version of it. And the freedom I got was, okay, there's a reason that God wired me the way I am, and it was so freeing and so relaxing to be able to say, this is the gift that He put in me. So If you want to, you can write it down, you can go later, or if you get bored, you can do it right now. I have a website, it's just poweroftheseven.com. And I actually have a test on there that is, as best I could tell, about 87% accurate. So when you get your result, you may say this is me, or you might not, but just know that it's hard to get 7 of them all into one test with it, and that's why the book helps to kind of go deeper into it. And the thing that the book did for me, that what I wanted it to do, was to say, okay, now if you've got this gift or I've got that gift, how do they work together? And that's what the book really dives deep into. So, how much time have I got, Craig? You already leave? You never hand a preacher a microphone without giving him a time limit. I don't know how many horse people we got in here, but in the book of Psalms, chapter 139, when he's in your mother's womb, I knit you together. And in the King James, they take it out in most modern versions, but in the King James it says, "Thou hast possessed my reins." And that's equine language, and I'm a horse guy. Part of the reason that my neck is jacked up isn't just because of my goat, but I've been thrown from a horse. If you ask somebody how many times, if you're a horse guy, have you ridden, and the first question you ask is how many times you've been thrown, and if the answer is 0, you're not a horse guy, because you haven't been on enough horses in your life. But jacked up my neck. But what that language is the reins of a horse is how they steer the horse, and you don't have to do much steering with the right horse. And what he was saying, that literally when you were in your mother's womb, he put this inside of you and he put it inside of me, and it's what steers us through life if we'll allow it to. And what I learned is about a horse is if you have a bad rider on the horse, that horse will drive you into the ground. You'll drive the horse into the ground. I mean, if you've been around horses, you sprint them, they'll literally die if you don't know to not sprint them. So when I realized that, that was the language of a horse, that these are the reins that he put on me, and I've got a good rider, right, which is God, and he wants what's best for me. He wants what's best for you. So instead of letting the expectations of those around you drive you, or the enemy to drive you, if you let God drive you, that's the best way to get through. These are not exactly it. So I'm going to just start with this, because we've only got a few minutes. There's 7 gifts that are listed in Romans chapter 12, verse 7. I'm going to go through these fast. There's just no way to get through them all because there's 7 of them. But I tried to give them names that were, and by the way, I was looking in the Greek, and I didn't just make these up out of hat. I was trying to get the idea of what this word meant. But like, for instance, the gift of, it says prophecy is the first gift, and you think of that, or I might think of that as a thus saith the Lord or an Elijah, but literally the word in that is different than any of the other times that it's used in the New Testament. And it just simply, I'll say Dave Ramsey is probably the quintessential guy who does that, which is, I love what Falcon said, you never wonder what Dave's thinking. He just said it. You're not questioning it. He just said it. So these are the 7, and I want to go through them individually, but what we do at our church, what I've done and I do this in Africa at our schools. I do it we have schools all over the world, and we go through this with each of them because it is the way that, especially in Christianity, there's a lot of young pastors, especially in other nations, that they think, I got to be just like the guy that trained me, so I got to be this, force of nature, and then they exhaust themselves. And so anyway, we do this with them as well. And we just put this little grid together, which is, discover what it is, develop it, and then you deliver it. And that's as simple and complex as I could possibly make it. It sounds so simple on paper, but verses 5 through 7, right? For Romans 12, if your gift is prophesying, prophesy according to your faith. If it's ministry, then serve. If your gift is teaching, then teach. If it's to give generously. If it's to lead, do it diligently. If it's to show mercy, do it cheerfully. And then verse 3, do not think more highly of yourself than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you. I put that, you're thinking, hey, he got that out of order, but I didn't. Because the biblical definition of humility, as best I can tell, is just believe the truth about yourself. When he says don't think more highly of yourself than you ought, it also means don't think more lowly of you. Just look in the mirror and see the same man, the same woman that God sees when he sees us. And so then he goes in verse 5, we in Christ, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to the other. He literally is using the language of a body to describe this. And if you've heard the phrase, the body of Christ, we think of that as the church, true. But the body itself, like he's using this language, this is how he treats us, is that this is, you might be a hand, I might be a foot, but these gifts are what he's using to describe what the body of Christ is. We're not in a theology class, so I'm not going to go through that with you guys. I do love this, which is that our problem following Jesus is that we're trying to be a better version of us rather than a more accurate reflection of him. And every self-help book in the world is about trying to be a better version of yourself, but God's saying, I just want you to be a better reflection of Jesus. And these gifts, that's how we do it. The gift that you have, you're going to reflect a part of Jesus. I'm going to reflect a part of Jesus. And when we work together, those parts reflect Jesus as a whole. So humility, believe in the truth about yourself. That's what he's telling us there in Romans. C.S. Lewis quote that you've heard probably 100 million times, right, is humility is not thinking less about yourself, it's just thinking about yourself less. Really, really helpful for me, especially when I worked in the music business for 20 years, and every artist loved to think about themselves all the time. So let's go to the Discover Your Gift. By the way, it also, if you go to mylifegift.com, that's another, but powerthe7.com, mylifegift.com, they both go to the same place, which is where the test is. All right, we're going to go through them now. The first one he says is prophecy. And prophecy is, I called it visionary. And I call it visionary because that's literally, did you see something that can happen that no one else can see happen? Like when I first got to Haiti, 2003, I'm with my friend Gerald LaFleur, who I still work with to this day. We're walking through these little streets, rocks and trash and poverty everywhere. And he said, there's going to be a school here, and we're going to have a clinic there. And I'm thinking, I don't know who you think you're talking to, but I got no money, I got no power, I got nothing. And I didn't see any of that. 20 years later, or is that 20? Oh my goodness, 22 years later, I'm getting old. There's a church, there's a school, there's a girls' home, there's a clinic. Everything he saw 22 years ago is there. And he has willed it into existence, his vision that he could see. So it's not like a, thus saith the Lord, here's what's going to happen in the future. It's I see what's possible, and no one else sees it. And we need that in the body of Christ, right? We need that in our workplaces. A leader that can see what's possible. And if you're a business owner, it's entirely possible that most entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, I should say, this is a gift that you'll see with them. And they, as they're going through it, I'm just going to leave this up. It's in the book, but my experience with visionaries is they tend to, how do I say this right? Well, I'll say it again, like Dave, you just say what you're thinking. You'll have a moment where someone, this is one of the clues, by the way, one of the flags that you might have this gift. If someone's ever said to you, I don't want to fight about this. I just want to, and you're thinking, I didn't know we were fighting. Like, if you think that's possible that you might have that gift, that might be the gift that God has put in you, because everybody around you might experience you as a fighter, and you just experience it as, I just thought we were having a communication here. I thought we were connecting with it. And I've also noticed this about my friends who have this gift, which is they don't mean to be that way. Like, they don't mean to hurt people's feelings, and they actually feel genuinely bad about it when they hurt somebody's feelings because they didn't know they hurt their feelings. And so that gift is one that if you're a business owner and you've got people that are working for you, you have to be aware of the fact that you are somebody that could hurt people's feelings if you're not careful. And you have to be quick to speak, but also quick to apologize. And people that I know that have delivered this gift well, I should say this here, I said it in there, but it's worth repeating here. when you hear the word gifts of the Spirit from a biblical perspective, it's easy to think of it as a gift that I'm getting for myself, but that's not it at all. It's a gift that you're to deliver to those around you, right? So it's not a gift to you, it's a gift through you. So it's not like, it's almost, think of it in the way of like if you ordered something for your kid on Amazon and the UPS driver is supposed to be bringing it, but it doesn't show up because somewhere the UPS driver has got it on the side of the road playing with the drone you bought for your kid for Christmas. It was a gift that was supposed to go through him, not to him. And for us, one of the things that the enemy does, I think, is to keep us away from delivering that gift, whether it's through shame or there's all kinds of ways that happens in our lives. So a visionary is somebody that just speaks, they lead, they're bulldozing, they're crushing it through. If you're familiar with like disc profiles, or it's like a D, there's different ways, different languages for it. But the one thing I've learned, and I learned it firsthand, and it's one of the reasons why Dave's company is so successful. By the way, I don't work for Dave. I don't make any money from Dave. But he's just been an ally and a friend. Because if you grew up in Nashville, like I didn't grow up there, but I spent 32 years ago, we all remember Dave when he was wearing a pinstripe suit and sounded like a hillbilly, because that's what he is a hillbilly. But you can't do it alone. You have to have people around you. Now, in the church world, you see the word ministry is what it says, the gift of ministry. This, by the way, this is my wife's gift. I called it collaborator because the one thing I know about somebody that has this gift is they just get crap done. They're moving. They're not waiting for permission, and they'll recruit you so fast. A good way to spot one of these in an organization or a church is look for the person with a clipboard. Right? They're probably that. Like, that's my wife, and we tell at our house with the kids, it's like if your mama wakes up and she got that clipboard, it's every man for himself. Like, it's your fault if you didn't get out of here in time because you're about to get a job and a task. And one of her favorite ways at home or at church to do this is on the wall there will be Post-it notes. Does anybody else do this? Or is this my wife? She'll put a Post-it notes on the wall, and on each Post-it note, this is a specific job. Now, it doesn't matter if that job takes 4 hours. It's still only one Post-it note. I've told her some of those need like 4 so I can feel like, And the way we know it got done is we move the Post-it note from this side of the wall to this side of the wall. And when it's at church, she does that all the time when there's a project to be done. But it's a gift that is, this is from the Message. So God has so generously let us in on what he is doing. We're not about to throw up our hands and walk off the job. That's that gift. It says ministry. There's different versions of the way it's interpreted, but it's really just if you're a visionary and you don't have a collaborator around you, you're just talking and nothing's getting done, which is what happened with LaFleur in those early days. He had to get some people around him that could do what he wanted to get done. And I'll say this: if you're in a workplace and this is your gift, you might, let me phrase that, 100% you will, because I've watched my wife, you don't understand why other people can't keep up with you. You don't understand why everybody isn't working this hard. Why are they not? And the answer is they don't have this gift. They don't see, like I can walk into a room, see absolutely nothing wrong with it. And my wife will walk into a room and see everything that needs to get done and how we're going to get it done. And then she starts recruiting to get it done. And it's not just a female gift, by the way. I'm only saying it's because it's my wife. But in a church, man, in fact, the first time I ever taught this, I set up a test. I thought about doing it to y'all today, but I don't know you well enough. I paid a kid in the church $10, and all he had to do, I said, I'm thirsty. And his job was to bring me a glass of water, to trip and fall, and make sure that glass shatters right in the middle of the service. And then watch what happened, right? And what happened? The collaborators, they jump up immediately. They're looking for mops, right? I mean, you could just watch when something unexpected happens. It's one of the greatest ways to say this is the clue to who my gift is when something you completely didn't expect, what is your first response to it? And, visionary, they're mad about it. Idiot, was he? Watch where he's going. The collaborator, they jump up. They're getting the mop. And it happened 100%. Everybody that I believe that had that gift, Joe Spino, he's got the mop. My wife, she's over there getting the towels and making sure the glass is picked up. it was amazing. So if you've experienced something you didn't expect to happen, that's a good clue that you know what your gift is going to be. So the collaborator, and by the way, if we're not going to be able to go into these in depth, most of this is available on my website for free. It is in the book as well. But the thing that I love about the collaborator is it's not just to, the gift of ministry isn't just to get stuff done. They're wanting to build relationships while they're doing it. And some of my wife's best friends, she makes with that clipboard. And some of her worst enemies, she makes those with that clipboard as well. But she's not looking to just get it done. She's looking to build relationships while she's doing it. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. So I've had tens of thousands of people take the test. This happens to be my gift. If it's teaching, then teach. Let's say 43,000 people now have taken this test. 1% of the people get this as it. So if there's one of you in here, solidarity. But there aren't a whole lot of us. And here's the thing, it's probably good because life would be so boring if it was just that gift in the world, because I'm all head and hardly any heart. I'm a decent problem solver because I can completely divorce myself from the emotions of it and see what needs to get done. So it's not just teaching like a teacher. Like there's a lot of teachers in America that have all these other gifts. So teaching might be the job. It doesn't mean it's your gift. Does that make sense? So I'm like, the discerner is just somebody that can connect dots. Connect dots in history, connect dots in problem solving, and when you see the gift, is it the Strengths Finders that has the connector gift in it? I think that's one of a lot of those that are called connectors, that's just the gift they have. So when Craig says that I've got a lot of friends, around here and around the world, it's actually just because of the gift I have. I've met a lot of people, mostly because I'm old and I live in Nashville, but that's just what I do. We connect people together to get stuff done. Craig's music video, by the way, was one of those things. Like I needed to raise some money for a specific project. They needed a music video. I knew a music video producer. I knew Haiti, and thought this song worked perfect with that. So I just connected it all together, and we flew to Haiti to get this music video done. So in a job setting, in a work setting, if you've got that gift, especially if you're a leader, I can speak from experience. I'm talking more about it than I said I would. At some point, you have enough information. You just need to make the decision. My weakness was I just kept gathering more information. But at some point, you just got to make the call. So I learned that gift has a tendency towards an analysis paralysis thing, and you don't want any part of that. So this is Craig, in case you're wondering. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. The way that he just moves through the world, don't you just feel better when he walks out of the room or walks into the room? It's like you got a vitamin B12 shot, like you're just happy, So it's not like, encourage, you're like, oh, Mont, you're doing such a good job. You're a good guy. It does include some of that. But even in the way he introduces people on a stage, that's just part of his gift, is to impart courage. It's in courage. So when I hear him talk about me, I'm like, I want him to go with me everywhere. Every room I walk into, I want Craig to go first and tell him how awesome I think I am, right? Like he's going to be the one because I don't think that about myself, but that's what that gift is. The people that I know that have that gift, to me, it's one of the easiest ones to spot because what they're wearing, the way they're acting, it's just joy, joy, joy. And I've known him for 25 years now. He is the exact same guy today that he was 25 years ago. And to me, one of the most surprising things was that he didn't know that about himself. When he first got the book, I sent him a copy, and I was, you're nervous, you write this, put it out in the world, they're going to think you're stupid. And he was like, it just spoke to him because it was about the identity of who he was that he actually was trying to bury because he thought that it was what was wrong with him. He needed to calm down more. He needed to, all those things that you get told. He probably spent a lot of time in the corner when he was a kid, He probably needs to spend some time in the corner today. Encourager. It's a gift that makes others feel better. It fuels others with the courage to be who God created them to be and do what God created them to do. They are courage, and that's Craig. all day long and twice on Tuesday. This one, 40% of the people that have taken the test come out with this one, so I might spend a little more time on it. It just says if it's giving, give generously. Now, if you don't look at the original meaning of that word, you think it means writing checks, giving money, but it's not what it's talking about at all. There's a passage where Paul says, we long to impart into you the gift that God has given us. The people that I know that have this gift they're just peacemakers. And I think it's probably the most common one because God knew we needed some peacemakers in the world. And if you have this gift, your tendency is to sort of just hide it because you genuinely don't care. Where do we go to lunch? I don't care. You're fully willing to let someone else's preferences win, and you bring peace into this situation with it. But it's a gift that we need in the world as much as we've ever needed it. I put there that they're optimistic, they're supportive, they bring people together. One of my best and longest friends, a guy named Jeremy Heslop, who is actually now the director of recruiting for Ramsey Solutions, but I've known him since he was 19 years old, and his wife was in a band opening for Hannah Montana. Half of my hearing loss was on tour with Hannah Montana, like the screams of 12-year-olds. This is a funny story that I wasn't planning on telling. She did this tour called The Best of Both Worlds. Most of you you weren't the target audience, but her dad, Billy Ray, this is before they all lost their minds, by the way, but Billy Ray was touring alongside her, but he'd go play like a venue, like a small venue downtown, wherever they were playing. And then they did this duet, and the last song of the night was a duet with her dad. And I'm telling you this because I'm in the front row, we're in the little pit, and my wife is here, and my girls. It was the only band I ever worked with that my kids, I didn't work with Miley, but an act that was touring with her. It was the first time my daughters thought Dad might be cool. But anyway, Billy Ray comes out, the little girls are screaming all night long. When Billy Ray comes out, the moms are screaming, including my wife. I'm like, Shannon, I'm standing right here for the love of God. I know he's hot, but dude, you cut me some slack. But Jeremy Heslop, nothing to do with anything we're talking about today. Jeremy Heslop is one of these guys. This gift, in my opinion, is great for HR, for recruiting, because your ability, if you have this gift, to diffuse conflict is unparalleled. Because you can genuinely see both sides of the problem. You can genuinely see he's got a point, she's got a point. So can we come together in the middle somewhere? When it's a problem that you've got to deal with somebody in an HR situation, they're so good at being able to give, the sandwich where you give a real good compliment and and you got to get this straight, and then you give them another compliment. They just do that normally. And in the Bible, there were so many of these examples. And by the way, in the book I put, I literally went through the New Testament and started realizing, I can see this gift here, and I can see that gift there in this person, and how God used them all to build his church. But this one, the peacemaker, they're optimistic, supportive, they bring people together, focus on the bright side, found them to be trusted, steady, hand on the wheel. That's so important. They just aren't, it's hard to rattle them because they're just so calm. And what they're imparting, this is when I see it in the scripture especially, they're imparting, of everything else they're imparting peace into the situation. They're imparting peace into the conflict. They're imparting peace into your company. So if you're working with one, they're great for peacemaking. And I'll give you a warning, or how do I say this? Here's what I'll say about imparters. They also don't tend to speak up if they themselves are hurt. So if you're working with, or one's working for you, a great question to ask is they'll be quiet for a whole meeting. And I learned that just because you're quiet doesn't mean you have something to say. Give them permission to speak in those meetings. And every time I've ever done that, they'll say something that I completely missed, completely didn't see. but they felt they needed permission for it. So if you've got that gift, I'm giving you permission right now. Deliver it. Don't hold it back. And if you're working, if one's working for you or with you, give them that permission, because they're going to give you wisdom that you didn't know. On a Sunday, one of the things I'll ask Jeremy, I have 2 imparters on my elder board, because they can tell me how many, this is 100% going to have hurt somebody's feelings. The way you worded this is going to hurt somebody's feelings. And sure enough, my emails will come in, oh, I can't believe you were so mean. But they help me to craft words that can go further, and because I don't mean to offend people. I'm all up in my head. I just thought it was facts, and facts don't have feelings, right? We all know that. But the people that know the facts have feelings. And so having an imparter around you in your workplace, very, very, very important. Guardian is the second most. And it says here, if it's to lead, do it diligently. The English language it's the English language. If you don't know this, people of other countries will tell you the English language is the hardest one on earth to learn. Now, I speak some Arabic, and I would disagree with that. In Japanese, it's like there are words. It's not the word. It's actually the way you say the word. There's one word, but a different intonation. There's all different words. But even a Japanese guy will say the English language is the hardest one. But lead is not the best word there, because in the Greek, where it was originally written, it actually speaks about guarding something. So I called it guardian, because this gift is the one that you imagine what can go wrong before it goes wrong. Like you've got a whole story in your head. You've imagined all the scenarios of what could possibly go wrong. Everything has its place. Most people that I know have, here's a clue for you that you might have this gift. Go to your sock drawer. If it's organized. Like my son this is his gift. If you looked at my closet, it looks like my brain. It's just a pile of like something. My son, his shirts are hung in order of color. His socks are folded neatly. Now, he sure didn't get that from me or his mom, by the way, because she's moving too quick. Now, she keeps things organized on paper, but her sock drawer looks like mine. He didn't get it from me because I didn't give him the gift. God did. And I promise you, if you don't have one of these running your books, get one. Look, I'll say this. The last person you want running your books is an encourager, okay? Because everything is fun. We want to buy that. We can do this. We can do that. So you need, I have a guardian on my staff, and his name is Mo, and his job is to pee in the Cheerios every day. Here's why we can't do this. Here's why we can't do that. I'll come in every day with some brand new idea, and he told me once, Darren, it's like I'm following a bottle rocket. Like you were just here, and now we're going to go do this. But what he does, what is it? Is it Tuesday? What day is it? Tuesday? I literally went through the entire day yesterday thinking it was Tuesday. I swear, I'm making plans for tomorrow thinking it was Wednesday. Anyway, so Tuesday, in my inbox, I haven't looked at it, but Tuesday at 8:15, I get an email that has all of the numbers where we are financially, and there's 3 months worth of it, and here's a projection for the next 3 months, and that's Mo. He is our guardian. He is our protector. And here's why it matters in a ministry situation. If someone gives us money to our church and says, I want to set a slave free in Asia, it is my moral, ethical, and legal responsibility to make sure that that's where that money goes. That it doesn't go to the new sound system. And that's why we have guardians in there, because they make it happen. They're the ones that can tell you where your books are. And most companies that I know that get into financial problems, it's because they didn't have a guardian telling them, we need to get this right. Here's why we can't do this. Here's the Excel spreadsheet. I'd rather claw my own eyes out than look at an Excel spreadsheet. Like literally walk on broken glass before I would sit down to an Excel spreadsheet. But Mo, it borderline makes his scalp tingle. You know what I mean? He gets this weird sick pleasure from this. His job description is, he doesn't sleep so that I can. And it works. He wakes up half the week, he's waking up going, oh, I wonder about this, I wonder about that, I wonder. So I've got a team of guardians around, because when we first started, we didn't have a whole lot, but there's money going through right now, whether it's going to Asia or whether it's going. We run a nonprofit drug and alcohol rehab that's Christ-centered, inpatient in Columbia, Tennessee. If you don't have money, we don't care. We'll take you. But we have to make sure that the money that's for that goes to that. And that's what the guardians do. So what they're guarding is the vision of your company. They're guarding the vision of your church. They're guarding the integrity of what God has called you to do as a company. They're so important. And by the way, not a lot of fun at a party. I'm just kidding, but some of you guys are. 10 minutes? Right. Responder, mercy. If your gift is mercy, mercy is very simple. They're really easy to spot. If you, how do I say this right? The one who's got the gift of mercy, which, by the way, I don't. First time I ever took a spiritual gifts test, long time ago, I scored 0 on the gift of mercy. And I was gobsmacked. And my wife looked at me and said, how is it possible that you didn't know that you don't have this gift? I'm like, my point is, it's not about being a nice guy, right? But it's also not a weak gift. This is the gift that runs to crisis and stays in crisis. Our counseling pastor has that gift. So that's the 7, okay? Again, the book is here. If you don't have money for it, just take one. We're putting every dollar we sell in these books, we just put it into setting slaves free. So that's why I even sell it at all. I didn't go with a publisher because I don't want some publisher to come mess it up. Paul says in Timothy, don't neglect your gift, which was given through prophecy when the elders laid their hands on you. Developing your gift is very simple, is becoming very aware of it and tearing away everything else, getting rid of everything off of your schedule that isn't your gift, and rerouting your gift to that thing. So if you're a guardian and your job is, you're the job that's the hype man or whatever, and you're miserable in it, developing it really just means just loading yourself into a place where you're doing what God has called you to do. So if it's in construction or in sales or whatever. And by the way, if you're in a sales position and you might have a gift that doesn't quite, you may have to access another part of your life to do it, but frame your job around the way that your gift works. So again, if you're a guardian, you're going to have a list of people you're supposed to call. But you might need to write a script to make sure that you're not, being a buzzkill on the phone. Right, the guys that are the encouragers or the girls that are encouragers, you just sell it all day long. But you will have to discipline yourself or surround yourself with a guardian to make sure that those leads that want to sell, want to buy, that they're following through those leads. And a guardian will do that for you. The gift is through you; it's not to you. And we won't go through this, but it is in the book. I encourage you as you learn what your gift is, learn what the gift of people around you are. Is to learn also how they work together. What I want to say there about that in the few minutes I've got is a lot of times we think of it as there's conflict to be avoided, but it's not. It's tension to be managed. So when Mo comes in and is a giant buzzkill, it used to make me mad. And I would tell him, if you're going to come to these vision meetings, you can't bring that in here. I need to have a moment where I can dream. There's a moment the guardian can now pee in the Cheerios, right, and tell me all the things. But in that meeting, I need you to be this with it. But instead of a conflict, right, when you think about it, let's think of the body part analogy that the Bible uses with it. A hand, if there's 5 fingers, they all got a different role, right? What is the thumb, right? The opposable. I always think of this one as the guardian because it's opposing you on everything. But when a thumb comes together with a pointy finger, the gift of prophecy, that's how you eat nachos, right? You got to have, the tension in the middle is where the strength is. So when they're out here scrambling around fighting each other, you're getting nothing done. But when they come together in a fist, that's where strength comes from. And if you don't have all 7, it's fine. You lean on this one or that one and pray that God brings the next one along with you. In a church, I'm 15 years in, so I've got one of everybody in almost every corner of the church. If you've got a leader that doesn't know this yet, it may help you even just to say, okay, I know he might have, or she might have been real mean to me in that moment, but it might have been because she was delivering a gift that she didn't know she was delivering, and so it felt a little harsh. You have patience for each other. It gives them, but the more you can know, the more you can learn about this for yourselves, for your teams, it brings strength. Not conflict to be avoided, but tension to be managed. It works. I promise you, it has freed our church. We've got 48 people on staff right now. We're running 100 directions. I got a team on a plane from Pakistan right now. And on that team, I've got an encourager. I've got a guardian. I've got an imparter. I've got a collaborator. They're literally all there. And I promise there were some moments of conflict, but when they come together on the tension of it, we've freed at this point 12,000 slaves in East Asia. Most people do not know this, but there are more slaves alive right now in the world than there have been in the entire history of the European slave trade. 4.5 million in just Pakistan. Thankfully, there's about 12,000 less because of a discerner, a connector. I'm connecting dots. I'm harassing my friends to write checks to set slaves free. I've got a guardian who's making sure the money is getting where it's going. I've got an encourager that is inspiring the team. You guys go, we got to get up. I know you're jet lagged. We got to go. And he's not cheering them. He just gets up and goes, and you're following him that way, right? We've got every gift in that. The imparter, who is our one of our counseling pastors, is there, and our responder is there. And it's just wild how God just naturally does it once you begin to understand it. But when we'll end with this. In a company world, the best place to start is in any other place, which is, who am I? Who did God create me to be? What is the identity that he put in me? Our world has told us, Miley Cyrus has told us, look into your own heart and be whoever you want to be. That's an identity that is achieved, and that's exhausting. Because what have we seen? People change their identity. So I want another identity. Well, I want to be this one. But an identity that is received, that's what God gave us. And that's what this is. This is not an identity that's achieved. It's an identity that is received. That's one of the reasons I gave them a title even that's like an identity with it, because it lets you know that God, it isn't just the gift through you, it's the gift that he's created you to be. So this is a little controversial amongst theologians, but you are God's gift to humanity. Like, he only created one of you. And just like you might have a little different version than I do, and you might have like a different version of a discerner. It's like when my wife comes to show me the paint colors for this construction we're doing, I didn't know there was 6,000 versions of white. I thought it was just white, but it's not. It's like there's eggshell white and all these whites. I don't even know what they are, but that's a lot like this. So you don't look at somebody. We're not, even with this gift, you still have a very specific version of the gift in you that's going to look like you, because it's an identity that's achieved. It's not an identity that's received. And I'm 54 years old. I'm doing the one job that I swore I'd never do, be a pastor. I couldn't think of anything less fun than being a pastor. I was enjoying my life as a rock and roll manager. I mean, I didn't quit because I was cynical, but I didn't think I could be a pastor because every pastor that I knew were the ones we all see on TV. They're all jacked with their steroids and their, whatever, their big voices. And I wasn't that, but what the freedom was every time I tried to be something like that, it was exhausting. And I couldn't, I hated life. And I started having panic attacks, literally. And then I realized, no, I am a pastor, but I'm a discerner pastor. And I've been able to exhale and recognize that the guy next door in his church, who might be an encourager, or the guy that's a visionary on the next one, their church is going to look different than mine. And that's okay, because theirs is led by the gift that God gave them to lead with. And in your companies, it's going to be led in your job, your day-to-day. It's going to be led, and if you'll just allow yourself to just be who God created you to be, his load is easy, his burden is light, and that gift is the reins of the horse that steer you. And the last part of that verse, in verse 4, it says, and chapter 12, verse 1, 2, 3, right? Offer your life, offer your body, your life. That's why I called it a life gift, as a living sacrifice, holy, pleasing, being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Right? I'm knowing who I'm supposed to be. And verse 3 says, and then you will know his will for your life, his good, his perfect, his pleasing will. And that's not a job, it's your identity. Then I know that is his will for my life, is that's who I'm supposed to be. So God is not only giving you permission, he is borderline begging you, because he created you because the world needed you and the gift that he put in you. It's not what's wrong with you, it's what's right with you. We good? All right. If you have any questions, we don't have time for them. But thank you. And do yourself a favor in another talk if you're bored or you're in the bathroom, whatever. The quiz takes like 5 minutes. Do the quiz. It's really fascinating, and honestly, it helps me to even learn more about who's out there taking the tests and stuff and who God created. So, Greg?
Yeah. I want to say this. This is no joke. This book, man, just lifted me several years ago. I've given it 30 times at least. Get one. Was leading a group of people, 2 people who thought they hated conflict. They just couldn't handle it, so they'd walk away from it. And it turns out they were just peacemakers. They were they just loved peace. So they were actually the perfect people to have tough conflict conversations. This book helped them realize what their gifting was and changed the way they led. So, anyways, Darren, Tyler, come talk to him. Come get a book. You've got about 12, 13 minutes to get to your next breakout. So, thank you, guys.